Welcome to History Happy Hour, a special series from History Uncovered. It's the end of April 2023, and we've handpicked a few of our favorite history stories from this month. Today we'll be talking about
how scientists found a never-before-seen chapter in the Bible,
how the discovery of a 6,000-year-old hook in Israel suggests that ancient people hunted sharks,
why experts are warning that mummies in Mexico City could be spreading ancient fungus,
new evidence that suggests ancient people used psychedelic drugs 3,000 years ago,
a study that claims humans once ate giant snails as large as a human hand,
as well as a number of historical anniversaries, including the discovery of LSD, the sinking of the Titanic, and much more.
I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Kalina Fraga.
And I'm All That's Interesting staff writer Austin Harvey.
Before we begin, we'd like to say once more that this spring we're conducting a survey as part of the Airwave Network to help us get to know you, your interests, what you think of the show. And you can find that survey questionnaire at surveymonkey.com/r/airwave. And if you fill out that survey, you'll be entered in a chance to win $500 in an Amazon gift card, which is not bad. Not bad at all. That's surveymonkey.com/r/airwave. Great. So with that, we can dive into some of the news posts that we've covered on the site this month that stood out to us about history.
Yeah, we had a lot of, I hate to use the word interesting when the websites call it All That's Interesting.
Right.
But we did. We had a lot of interesting history news stories this month. A lot of really
ancient
unique
history.
A lot of ancient history, which we don't always get.
Yeah.
The first one being that they found a hidden Bible chapter, which when I read the headline, I thought meant literally one that we have not known about for forever, which
same.
is not entirely the case. It's ancient Syriac translation of the Bible, of Gospels of Matthew chapter 12, which was buried under two other layers of manuscripts.
Right, because the thing in the Middle Ages they would do is just reuse parchment. It's erase something and then write over it. So there's three different layers of Syriac, Greek, and then Georgian writing on this parchment, which is sort of fascinating.
Yeah, and then the other thing being that the translation was literally different, as in if you translate both to English, the Greek versus the Syriac, there are slight variations in what is actually being said.
Yeah, I don't think they've translated this one yet, but there were some other examples of, where they've seen this before. It's very little things. It's basically the basic thing is the same, but a couple of words or there's one action added or something like that.
Right. I think there was something about eating grains, but in the Syriac one, they rubbed the grains in their hands first and then ate it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you wonder what motivated these monks who I'm sure were writing this out to make that change? Were they I want to fill the space better, be prettier that way, or
maybe if it was a cultural thing, if ancient Syriac culture, if they had a tradition where they rubbed grains first, and then the Greeks were we're not going to do that. We're just going to eat food.
Right. Yeah, it's a mystery, but it's kind of fascinating. This isn't the first time that we've covered something on the site, and I don't remember what the last thing was, but where using new technology, I think UV lights, they've been able to see these erased marks on ancient pages, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm also curious about how they erased the ink from the parchment.
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a very easy answer to it. I just never bothered to look it up.
No, that's a great question. I never even thought about that before. Yeah, but that's a fascinating thing that we covered on the site, which you can check out. And I guess the next news story also has to do with ancient stuff, although I think even more ancient.
I think every news story we're talking about today is ancient.
I think so. Yeah. We're going way back today.
Yeah.
But this one's about a copper hook they found in Israel. And this happens in Israel all the time. Whenever there's a new construction being built, they have to check it out and make sure there's nothing important. So they were building a new neighborhood and they found a copper hook, which they think was a shark hook from 6,000 years ago, which is incredible.
Kind of ancient shark week.
Yeah, exactly. It was found in a village that was not on the water, but near the water. And because they didn't find a lot of fish bones nearby, they're making the assumption that maybe they hunted sharks for special occasions. Right,
which is really neat to think of. It's such an interesting visual to think of someone just reeling in a shark.
Yeah, right.
Modern shark catching Whatever. But they, it's such a big, extravagant, like we're on a boat, we have a big net, like it's like a whole ordeal with very little like human versus shark muscle power. I want to see the fishing rod it would have been attached to.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if the sharks were bigger back then or smaller. I mean, it seems like there's a lot of unknowns about this shark hook still.
Yeah.
But
I'm curious, like, was it like just one person with a really giant fishing rod or was it like a multi-person effort?
Yeah. I would think multi-person. That's how I'm imagining it. Is like, they're like, it's time. There's some celebration. Let's all go with our copper shark hook and go find some sharks.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that, that's very fascinating, especially given that it was such an agricultural area who like, it raises so many questions because you would have never thought 6,000 years ago people were catching sharks. And now that we know that now that we, have evidence that suggests that they did, that opens up so many more questions like why? What was the significance of this celebration if that was what it was? Or, just one of those cool instances of history opening doors to new pathways that we didn't really think of, which gets into why you can say history news because it is
right.
New information.
Exactly. And all of this from just like one tiny hook that they found, deep in the dirt somewhere. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Not on the I guess this one is a little bit more modern. It's a modern problem from an ancient story. In Mexico, there are these mummies, the Guanajuato mummies, which are terrifying looking. And they kind of look like they're screaming. And they've been this fascination in Mexico for well over 100 years.
But they changed their expressions, I read, which I was like, what? Yeah, that they posed them to look that way.
Oh. Like the museum curators. I thought you meant the mummies change expressions.
Oh, God, no.
And I was like, what? Why are we not talking about that? That's crazy.
No.
Oh, God, okay.
Well, I guess spores have like a very thin relation to what we'll talk about next, our next story.
It might be hallucinogenic mushrooms.
Yeah. There was a study of these clumps of hair they found in a cave on an island near Spain, and they're from the Bronze Age. And this study revealed that they had these I can never say this word, hallucinogenic drugs in the hair. It's from all these like plants that cause let's see, I wrote it down. They can cause disorientation, sensory disruption, and often violent hallucinations. And it's the first time they found definitive proof of a drug like this among Bronze Age Europeans.
Yeah, I wrote down what plants they were ingesting to induce this hallucinogenic state. It was devil's snare, white henbane, mandrake, and joint pine. And they contain traces of atropine and scopolamine, which, as you said, can have effects that don't sound particularly fun.
Yeah.
When I think of people doing hallucinogenic drugs, it's usually for a more like pleasant experience.
They don't know why these people did it. It's like, was it a religious ceremony? They preserved the hair clumps. So there was something to do with these people. I'm
like convinced it was an accident. I have a theory that most food was discovered by accident.
Yeah.
I might have brought this up before, but I'm convinced that people...
Go ahead.
Oh, did I not? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
I think it was all like serendipitous when people learned about new foods. They just group of gatherers go out and they pick a couple berries that are red and they're like, well, last week we had the red berries and they were really good. So then they're like, these ones probably be good. And then one of them tries them and dies and then they go, oh, not those ones. And it was just trial and error for years and years and years. But I also like to think the first time anybody cooked food, it was by accident.
Probably. Yeah.
I like to think my favorite one is I like to think the first stew was by accident. Someone was boiling water to do laundry and somebody else tripped and dropped all the vegetables in. They're like, oh no. And then they're like, that's pretty good, actually.
Let's eat it anyway. Oh, it's softer.
It's probably not how it went, but that's my headcanon for history.
Well, this could have happened. They could have just been like eating some plants in Spain and whoa, bam. So
yeah,
we'll never know. Well, maybe we'll find out more. Who knows?
We might, yeah. Or like you said, it could have been a religious ceremony thing as well. You see that a lot in Native American culture, where they ingested peyote and it was like a spiritual experience. So,
yeah. Well, speaking of cooking and eating and ancient people.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, ancient escargot.
I love escargot.
I've actually never had it.
Are there French restaurants near you? You should go and just check it out.
I'm sure there are. I think the idea of it kind of freaks me out a little bit.
It's so good. It's so garlicky and like buttery, and highly recommend. If you think about it too much, I guess maybe that could weird you out, but it's just, I don't know. They're good.
Yeah. I mean, I like mussels and scallops and...
You'll be fine. Yeah, it's just like that. Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, hey, I guess if they've been doing it for maybe 170,000 years, someone's doing something right.
Yeah. Yeah. These people were eating giant snails, which I think is crazy. Big snails.
Yeah. Like massive scales. South African land snails, I think they have just a very generic name. But they found the shell fragments at South Africa's border cave, which is 2,000 feet above sea level. And what's interesting is obviously you're not going to have like remnants of a snail, but they had remnants of snail shells, which were discolored or like changed their color from what it would naturally be. And to confirm the hypothesis that they were cooking and eating these snails, they basically burned some more snail shells now at varying temperatures up to like 12,000 degrees. And they noticed if you cook these shells, they turn like a very similar shade of like ash gray or white or whatever, depending on how long you cooked it. And so from that, they figured, okay, so these ancient people in South Africa were likely eating these snails, and probably that it was for like young children and elderly people who couldn't really eat the other food they were having. Yeah.
And if these snails were, they say, as big as like a human hand, that's a pretty decent meal. That's a lot of snails.
Yeah.
So
that's a lot of protein too, and like good stuff for you.
Yeah.
And so long ago too, because I think they said before this, previous evidence suggested that they were eating snails after or towards the end of the last ice age, which was like 15,000 years ago. And this would be anywhere from 70,000 to 170,000 years ago. So that's amazing. Quite a ways back.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a long legacy from that to escargot today, humans eating snails.
It makes sense too. Snails are slow. It's not
easy to catch.
It's an easy hunt.
That's
Makes
true.
a lot of sense. Like, you'd much rather go out and hunt snails than a tiger.
Yeah, garlic and butter.
I'll have to try it out now.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to switch things over to some major anniversaries from April, which I have to say, April's a history-packed month.
It really is.
It really is.
I have a feeling May is going to be as well.
Yeah.
But I felt like March, we were kind of not scraping the bottom of the barrel, but we were stretching it a little bit, being like, okay, well, that's kind of big. But like, yeah,
There's
April had
so
a
much
lot.
in April.
And a lot within the past century also.
Yeah, I think everything's in the 20th century that we covered today.
Every single thing, yeah. First one being this year was the 50-year anniversary of the first cell phone call, which is really, I didn't realize it went that far back.
I know. It's kind of a funny story too, because the first call was between a Motorola executive and an AT&T executive. And the Motorola guy said, "Joel, this is Marty. I'm calling you from a cell phone, a real handheld portable cell phone." And it was kind of like a, haha, we beat you to it type call.
Which is just the best first call that could have ever been made.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Yeah, it really set the stage for everything that would come after.
Well, I was reading more about this, and like the first cell phone then came to market in the 1980s, and it weighed 2 pounds. It had a battery life of about 60 minutes, and it cost $4,000 in 1980s money, which is $9,000 today.
Oh my God.
I know.
I like that the guy said, Martin Cooper was talking about how they wanted to make a phone that it was actually portable, that you could actually carry with you in your pocket. And I was like, I am not putting a 2-pound brick in my pocket and walking around with it. That sounds so uncomfortable.
I feel like in movies from the 80s and the 90s too, people had those big brick phones.
Yeah, I've definitely seen those in some movies with like, they pull out the big antenna.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And now we all have them with us at all times.
Yeah. And they take crazy good photographs.
They sure do. It sounds like an ad for some cell phone.
So anyway, guys, check out the All That's Interesting cell phone now available on the website.
Takes real good photos.
Takes real good photos.
It tells you facts about history at the same time.
It has built-in UV light, so grab your Bibles.
Yeah. Well, Well, this is an easy segue from this to our next anniversary, which is the launch of the World Wide Web. Another big moment. Yeah. It's called Mesh, which I think is a great name for like some startup at doing something. Mesh. That's cool.
Isn't that what... I think those were the routers that Google used to make.
Oh, yeah.
I think they were Google Mesh routers, which now makes a lot of sense. My brain's just making that connection.
Mesh. World Wide Web is good. That's a good name, but I think Mesh is kind of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Mesh. It reminds me of that, like, I don't know if you watched SNL in like the early 2010s, but there was this ongoing thing with Stefan, played by Bill Hader.
My favorite character.
New York's hottest club is Mesh. I could see that.
Stefan, that was peak SNL.
Yeah. I love Bill Hader too. He's great.
Yeah. I really like the one where John Mulaney comes out with him.
Oh, yeah. Right.
They just break character.
Yeah. Well, in a totally different direction from that. I guess it's an invention still, so we can keep with that theme.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's our next anniversary is the discovery of LSD, 1943. I have a kind of a long quote from the guy who discovered it, Albert Hoffman, but I'll just read it.
Yeah.
So he basically accidentally ingested LSD, I think through his fingers while he was doing research. And he wrote, last Friday, April 16th, 1943, I was forced to interrupt my work in the laboratory. Oh, wow, I can't say that word. I was going to say laboratory, and I was like, that's not how you say that word.
Dexter's laboratory.
Yeah. In the middle of the afternoon and proceed home, being affected by remarkable restlessness combined with slight dizziness. At home, I lay down and sank into a not unpleasant, intoxicated-like condition, characterized by an extremely stimulated imagination. In a dreamlike state with eyes closed, I found the daylight to be unpleasantly glaring. I perceived an uninterrupted stream of fantastic pictures, extraordinary shapes with intense kaleidoscopic play of colors. After some 2 hours, this condition faded away. Ooh. So he took it on purpose after that. And then he was like, guys, guess what I found? And then word spread.
Yeah. And then the government was like, you think we can control people's minds with that?
Right.
And then
that happened for a little while. Then they're like, nah, we'll just make it illegal instead.
Right. They're like, well, that was a bust.
Yeah.
Can't let other people have that, though. No way.
Mm-hmm. Well, our next anniversary is
something we've been talking about a good bit.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wrote it in my notes. We know a lot about this.
We know a lot about this one.
It's the sinking of the Titanic.
111th anniversary?
Ooh, wow.
Triple ones? Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, April 14th/15th, 1912. Yeah, 111 years ago.
So we have a series coming. Actually, I guess our first episode's already out.
Yeah, the first two.
And second, yeah.
Yeah.
First two are out. But yeah, the ship sank, as people know, starting on the 14th into the 15th. A lot of people died.
We don't have to get too into it here because, again, we have 2 of 6 episodes out for that right now. So if you want to get more into the story of the Titanic, it's there and waiting for you.
Yeah, and we get into a lot of details about, the ship, the people on it, all the drama that went down literally that day.
But there is one thing we didn't cover, we can talk about today, and that's the punch that they drank on the Titanic.
Yes.
Yeah, it was punch a la romaine, and there's a recipe on chilled, which actually sounds pretty good.
But it sounds so complicated to make. It's like...
It's a multi-step process with a lot of preparation.
Well, the punch itself is basically like a frozen drink.
Right.
And just like a little history about it. Apparently it came from 17th century Rome, served to popes, and then when Napoleon invaded Italy, he brought it back to France. And then it became like a big hit. But it's very, very complicated to make. You need a whole afternoon, I would think, because it comes in 2 parts.
Right, yeah. You have to make lemon water ice, or, like a lemon slushy, and then also meringue.
Yeah.
But
and then it has to be served immediately to get like the good like froth on the top.
Which just goes to show you how luxurious the dining experience was on the Titanic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was for first class passengers only.
Right, of course.
No one in third class got this punch. And it was served on the last night before the ship sank. So.
Wow.
Yikes.
Little grim bit of history there, but yeah, I mean, it sounds good.
It does sound really good.
Especially for this time of year as it's getting warmer again and getting away from brown liquors and back into... I guess it does have rum in it, so maybe whatever.
I wonder what would happen if I walked into like a nice cocktail bar and was like, I'd like a Roman punch, please. If they would be like, all right. I mean, probably not, because it takes too much preparation. Yeah. Wonder if I can find a bar in New York that has it.
Oh,
I think
for
I probably
sure.
could.
I'm sure there's
check it out.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Titanic-themed restaurant somewhere in New York.
I need to do some research into that. That'd be cool to try. I do have a friend who loves making cocktails.
Okay.
He might be up for the challenge as well.
Yeah, well, if you end up trying it, let me know. I think we'll probably
will.
do the Titanic discussion episode before our next History Happy Hour. So if you try it before then, you'll have to report back on if it's any good or not.
That should be my goal.
Yeah, if it's worth the effort.
Yeah, off a Titanic like party or something, and enlist someone to serve it.
Yeah, just listen to classical music, and at the end, you dump cold water on everybody.
That sounds right. And then I push certain people out, and let other people stay.
Right. Yeah, and you assign each of your friends to first, second, or third class. You could get different things.
Yeah. Based on the housewarming gifts they give me for this party.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, shortly after the Titanic sank, that punch became illegal in the United States because Prohibition happened.
Yeah. Now, they were in international waters.
That's true.
So I guess they would have been fine regardless.
Yeah. Let's make this very clunky segue into our final anniversary, which is when Prohibition was repealed. It's actually the Volstead Act that was repealed on April 7th, 1933. From what I read online, FDR had just been sworn in that March. He was at a dinner a few weeks later, and he kind of remarked, this would be a good time for a beer. And pretty soon after that, the Volstead Act was repealed, and beer with a low alcohol percentage, as well as some wines, were legalized once again.
Yep, so Miller Lite, right ahead.
Is Miller Lite that low in
it's like
AP?
4.3%. I think most mass market beers like that, like Miller, Bud, Yingling, Heineken, they're all around that 4 to 5% margin.
I guess because I really only drink IPAs, they're always higher than that. Usually
6 to 10.
10's getting a bit too strong, but yeah.
Those, that's why they taste like water.
Yeah. But that opened the door for the rest of Prohibition to go away, and people were able to drink in the streets again. And we have a great, this might have been one of your articles, photos of Prohibition.
Yeah,
repealed.
speakeasies, and then I had a lot of photos of the moment Prohibition was repealed, which was really funny to look at.
Yeah,
just a lot of people waiting around and then being like, all right, it's almost midnight. Because it was probably a monument. It was a monumental moment. But I would love to be able to go back in time and watch that exact moment happen.
Yeah, it's one of those things where people say if you could pick any time to go back to, that would be a good one.
Yeah. If I only had if it was one of those time machines where you're all right, you could go for a minute. I'd be all right, 11:59, that day, I want to see everyone just go, yeah, and then
you're done.
Yeah, and then I'm done.
You would want to stick around and have a drink with.
I think it'd be really funny if I toasted them, and then right as I was about to take the drink, I just disappeared.
Yeah, they'd probably be like, oh no, God isn't into this. Better bring Prohibition back.
Oh no, it's one of those butterfly effect things. Yeah. Come back, it's no, wait, no.
Right, and then you come back to the future and there's alcohol's gone. That's no good.
Yeah, never mind. I don't want to go back in time.
But yeah, that kind of sums up our anniversaries and our news and all that for April.
Yeah. April was a surprisingly active month.
It was. I can't believe it's over. Almost over.
Yeah, it'll be over by the time this one comes out. But
time flies.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, God, yeah, we're already almost halfway through the year.
Don't say that. But I'm excited for summer. It's really beautiful here today, and
I'm
ready for it.
Very nice here as well. Just I can't go outside because the pollen.
Oh yeah.
We're surrounded by trees, so it's just
yikes.
I'm doomed.
Well, hopefully all the pollen disappears.
Yeah, usually only lasts a week. No, 2 or 3 weeks, probably every April into May, and then I'll be fine.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go out and enjoy the nice weather.
That's my plan. Yeah.
Go breathe in that fresh air, that fresh New York air.
Love that fresh New York air. Doesn't smell like garbage at all. No, it doesn't. That's a horrible stereotype. Yeah. All right. So, I guess we'll wrap things up then by reminding everyone to please check out that survey we mentioned at the top of the show. So that's surveymonkey.com/r/airwave. It's a pretty short questionnaire. It'll help us improve everything. And you could win $500 with Amazon, which is incredible.
Yeah. And I recently learned
a lot of Amazon things.
You can get a pretty good vacuum on Amazon, a cordless vacuum for $120. And that leaves you with like 380 leftover dollars.
Whoa. Well, that's good to know. I'm in the market for a vacuum.
I'll send you a link.
Oh, God. Adulthood is so exciting. Yeah. I would love to see the link, though.
Vacuums? Okay, yeah, no.
Anyway, so that's surveymonkey.com/r/airwave.
Yeah, and if you liked the show, you can help other people find out about it by leaving us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, leave a comment on YouTube, all that jazz. And make sure to follow All That's Interesting and the History Revealed pages on Facebook, and you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at Real History Uncovered. And if you don't want to miss new episodes, because again, we are doing that 6-part series on the Titanic, which is coming out weekly, make sure you subscribe to the History Uncovered podcast and keep up with our latest stories at allthat'sinteresting.com.
Nice. All right. We'll talk to you a lot, probably in other podcasts, but we'll be back next month for May History Happy Hour.
Ooh, yeah. Can't wait to see what cocktail we get from May.
Yeah, I know. Hopefully we can try the Titanic punch between now and then.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to go out and buy everything. And I was like, I really don't want to put that much work in, man.
It's so much work. So many ingredients.
But hey, yeah, if anyone listening happens to make the punch a la romaine, and you want to let us know how it was, you can leave us a message, either by emailing us at podcast@allthat'sinteresting.com or give us a call at 929-526-3029 and let us know if you enjoyed that cocktail.
We're very curious. I would love to know.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
Toodles.
Till next time.